Hey everybody, it's Jim from the 312 Workshop, and we're continuing making Christmas presents. I am going to be making this today. It's a bird feeder, obviously. You can see inside there's a little suet dispenser. I will not be making that. This is a card, Red Farm Studios, Pawtucket, Rhode Island. This is a card my mom got probably in the late 60s, and it's a little hard to tell. But that is a picture of the one my grandfather made pre-1973. Now, I had made these about 30 years ago. I had made a couple, sent one to my stepmom and dad up in Ohio, one for my mom, gave a couple others as gifts. And luckily, I still had the templates. But I didn't really like the look of what I had created. It was a little too boxy. So I used some cardboard, created a new template. There's lots of instructions there that you guys probably can't read. Hopefully I can get things listed. I don't know. You could try to take a screenshot of it, but boy, it'd be hard. However, I took the cardboard and then I made a plywood template of the sides. Okay. And if you stop the screen, you'll get an idea of what I'm doing. The radius is a little funny. It required two different compass setups, but anyway. But then I also made a plywood template of the end piece. So I'm going to definitely at least make one, if not two, maybe even three. We'll see how much wood I have. I'm going to make the whole thing out of 1x. I've got some 1x10. I think I've got some 1x6 and maybe even some 1x4. There will be a slight glue up. The bottom is, of course, piece of 3/4. It is 14 inches wide by 18 deep. The bottom will extend a little further past the front of this, and then the ends will just protrude like that. Now, when I made these 30 years ago, I did all kinds of dadoing and things like that that really didn't lend to the construction. They didn't last any longer. These things will probably last 10 years. You know, that's the way it goes. I am going to paint it, but I will not be painting the inside. I probably will use the board finish I made a while back. Anyway, I've got to get rough lumber. I've got to get some lumber in here. Yeah. I've got to get some lumber in here and start rough cutting things. And that's what we'll do next. Okay, didn't have quite as much as I thought I did. This stuff was on a stack that, unfortunately, during the hurricane, the plastic got blown off it. It got water on it. It's dirty, but I'm not too concerned about that. I'm gonna take a random orbit sander with some 80 grit and just run over just to knock the junk off of it. The 1x10 is a little. I've got a little bit of roughness on the end and some splitting, and I'll just cut that off. Again, it's not. This is a quick and dirty project. This is not anything ultra fancy. It's not like I'm making this out of cherry and it's going to be a display piece. This is going to be outside with actual birds on. Okay, everything is rough cut. I can get both arms out of that. We've got the two pieces for the sides, the two pieces that will be glued together for the floor. We've got the front roof, the little front roof, and we've got the other two pieces will be glued together for the back roof. Grain doesn't look too bad. I might actually be able to make that work really nice. Surprisingly, since this stuff got knocked over in the hurricane and uncovered and all that, it's surprisingly flat. There's very little warpage. I consider myself very lucky. Well, on to the next step. Okay, time for a little glue up. Here we go. Oh, you like my little 3D printed stands? Designed them myself. What is it with YouTube? All of a sudden, I've seen a lot of YouTube woodworkers that they're like finding the greatness of 3D printing and whatnot. I'm like, I've been doing that for 2 years. I've designed my own stuff, printed other people's files. Yeah, it just seemed kind of weird. And I designed these in such a way that the rail stands just proud, which is not a bad thing. All right. Let's make sure these work. Yep. All I did was rip these, just dress the ends on the table saw. I didn't play around with a joint or anything like that. We're not looking for anything that precise. Okay. And I know a lot of people use packing tape, and a lot of people use blue painter's tape. I am from, actually, yeah, that should be good enough. I am from the entertainment industry. I use gaff tape. The thing that I like about it is it will come off these cleanly unless I let it sit there for 6 months. And now we flip it around. It'll be fine. It's not that crucial. And I can sand it if I have to. All right, that one's together. Okay, now for a little bandsaw action. I have taped the two sides together, and I'll be cutting the circle. I'll be cutting inside and then sanding to the line. And then to keep this cut straight, I'll rip it on the table saw. Echo, dust collection off. And now with a little bit of sanding, I can make that nice and smooth on both of them. If I transfer these dimensions down, then it should go. Doing that, I'll be able to square this cut compared to my miter slot, and it'll be approximate. It's not going to be exact. Like I said, we're not making a piece of fine furniture here. You set the lines on the edge of the miter slot. Hold it down. And now I should be close. I won't be exact. There we go. Echo, dust collection on. And there we go. Now I have two pieces completely matched and just two pieces of gaff tape. It worked. This way, I didn't have to mess around with the concept of painter's tape and glue and all that stuff, but they are identical. Now, I did separate them a little quickly because I do want to sand this a little bit, but it's not that out of whack, and I think I can hold and just gently sand it. A little band of gaff tape, I'll be able to make these identical. Okay, I have pulled out my very old panel jig. And if you look at it, you kind of know where it might have come from. Yes, the New Yankee Workshop inspired a lot of this. Anyway, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this jig and I'm going to get a fresh edge. I've already got this set for 14 inches. I'll drop it, rip it, actually cross cut it technically. Then I'll have my 14 inches. Then I can rotate it back, trim one edge, and then cut it to 18. Echo, window fan on. Echo, dust collection on. I'm so old school, I've got to put a couple drops of oil in my nail gun. Ha! Anyway, time for a little assembly. I've still got more to do on the other parts, but I want to get this together. I'm gluing and bradding everything. So, this is my back piece, my sides, all ready to go. I'm just trying to figure out what is going to look best. Yeah, I think the way I did it, I think the darker side can go in. Another thing I never really understood, the amount of woodworkers on YouTube that just like use their fingers. I'm like, if you're working in the shop all day, which, by the way, that is really what's happening. We're not staging this. We're not playing around. I am really working in the shop and have been in the shop since about 10 to 30, and it is now 4:25. That is how long this project has taken. So, now, I will say, if you have a bigger shop, you probably wouldn't run into the issues that I'm running into because honestly, I'm so small, I guarantee you I am spending a third to half my time moving tools around, which is, hey, this is the best I can do. This is what I can afford. And, I'm not going to complain as far as that goes. I can still get a lot done in here. No, that's too big of a hammer. I need my thwacker. Every shop needs a thwacker. That's better. All right. There we go. Looking good. And as you can see, I mean, granted, I've still got a little bit of work to do on these, but that will just about fit on the bottom. I'm actually going to set this on a piece of probably 1/8 plywood when I nail these and glue this. That way it's got just a little bit of a lip on the bottom so you don't just see it as flush. But we're getting there. Okay, I'm just lining up the top. I was going to have the top overhang and have this piece come up under it. I'm still not sure that's the right way to do it. Oh, I'll think about that. You know what? I think we'll do it on this side so you can see it. The idea is I need a certain amount of overhang. Now, if I just cut this the same plane as that and then put this over it, water will shed down. So I'm going to leave it about halfway over, about an 1/8 of an inch, just as long as it's even. Okay, and you want to pull it up just a little. Set this on that, if that makes sense. It's kind of hard to hold all this, but you see what I'm doing here. I'm holding this a little bit over. This is my line, and now I can just, and that's my angle. I'm just eyeballing this cut. I don't think it's that crucial. I have learned always reset your table saw back to 90. Very important. And also very important that there's enough room to set the blade. Set it on that side more on. There we go. Yeah, that's actually very important. Can't tell you how many times I've come to the table saw and gone, no, it just doesn't look 90, and it's not. Because evidently I just brought it up into place and went, yeah, that's good enough. Good. All right. Now, I'm going to cut these to their final dimension. These are the side pieces. But I'm going to wait to cut the back trim piece until these are on, so it's a relative dimension. The piece will tell me how big this needs to be. Be crazy. Okay, as you can see, I'm going to lay down a 1/8 inch piece of plywood, and that'll bump this up just a little. Then I have gone ahead and rounded over almost all of the surfaces, except where the side meets the edge of this. That's this one corner. I went ahead and rounded over the bottoms because they will actually hang a little proud. So now it's just glue and nails. Now I want it flush with the back because I'm just going to go ahead and have this back trim piece overhang. You'll see the edge, but it's not that big of a deal. On this side, same thing. Let it overhang just a little. Glue on the end grain. Glue on this piece, and you can also see I stopped the round over just before this. I hit it with a little sander, a little random orbit sander, just to kind of freshen it up, make it look good. Huh. I need a thinner piece of 1/8. Yeah, that'll work. Because it's wider and it's kicking it up. Yeah, okay. Good enough. Thinner piece. Okay. Fits pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and round over 3 sides of this, except where it meets the birdhouse itself. Bird feeder, excuse me. But these corners, to match the sides, I am going to round those over at the sander, just to be safe. One thing I did forget is that unlike this, drawing where it's kind of mounted to what looks like a old branch, I'm going to be mounting this with a 3/4 inch galvanized pole driven into the ground with a floor flange mounted on this. So it would behoove me to put another piece of wood here to mount the floor flange on. And that's about right. And I have switched over to 1.25 inch brads. And that secures it. Oh, there. Uh-oh. Whoa, that was fun. There we go. And now to finish. Okay, so we're on to finishing. Now the inside, I'm going to finish with my board wax. I've melted it on one of those little coffee mug heaters, which works fine. It's nice and liquid. I will say I refrain from calling it board butter because it's not. It's more like a candle. That carnauba wax I added really makes it hard. There we go. And what I'll do is I'll brush this on, I'll let it harden, and then I'll go in and buff it with a dry cloth. Okay, now I am using powdered milk paint, and I am not. Honestly, I've had this stuff for 30 years. But once I'm done, I'm just going to get rid of it. But because I'm sure it's not good. I don't think it can last 30 years. It was very clumpy, but I got the effect I wanted. Echo, saw light on. Okay. There we go. I think, well, here we go. We'll do this. There we go. You see the look I'm going for, kind of a washed, you can see the grain through it a little bit, that kind of thing. I'm actually using it as a reddish barn red stain more than anything else. I'm not looking for a solid cover. So I'm not applying it with a brush. And it is thick and gloopy. And I am using a rag. Actually, I'm using a damp rag to apply it. So just basically get a little bit there and just wipe it on. Like I said, I'm going for a stain look more than an actual paint, which is fine. I do want it a little thick, so I may have to kind of leave it on and then try to wash it off or wipe it off. But, sorry, I had to check, make sure my microphone was still on. Well, there you have it, folks. I think it's a decent facsimile. It's close anyway. Again, we can kind of see some of the grain. I will say I was not as careful as I should have been with the glue, but that's okay. I did the um, board wax finish on the inside. Just I wanted something a little different to make it that way. Now you will notice I did leave a little bit of a gap here in the back between the backboard and the roof, and that really is just for a little bit of airflow. I need to make a lazy Susan if I'm going to do this more often. But you can see, you can see the grain a little bit. It's still it's a little splotchy, but it's not terrible. But it's what it's what I was looking for. Now I know the milk paint is not going to last if this is used outside. It will slowly pull away, but that's okay because it will end up having that kind of reddish old barn look after a year or two, and I'm good with that. So that's all from the 312 workshop. I really appreciate it. If you could hit the like button, subscribe if you can, and we'll see you at the next video. Thanks. Have a good one.